Can you imagine it? A brand new Las Vegas tower, 67 stories high, 3,700 rooms, 36 restaurants, and a price tag of $3.7 billion, already turning into a ghost casino less than 2 years after opening. No cheering crowds, no spinning reels, no energy pulsing through the air. Only the quiet hum of air conditioning in a palace built for no one. Fontainebleau was meant to be the city's comeback story, the crown jewel that would light up the north end of the Strip and prove that Vegas never sleeps. Instead, it became its darkest mirror. The tower's glass walls still shimmer blue at night, but the reflection is not glory anymore. It is emptiness, a monument to excess and illusion. Inside the marble lobby, the scent of luxury still lingers, but it feels less like a celebration and more like an echo. Fontainebleau, once imagined as a palace in the sky, has become something no casino owner ever wants to see: silence that costs money. Reports show the resort losing roughly $400,000 every day, $400,000 of pure operating burn. That figure alone turns the building into one of the most expensive mistakes in modern tourism. A viral photo once showed the resort's $24 nachos, 6 chips under a drizzle of cheese. For most people, it wasn't about the food. It was about what Fontainebleau represented, a city that once welcomed everyone, now pricing itself out of reach. One forum visitor summed it up brutally. They think they're a high-end strip icon, but they're just a circus without the soul. The truth behind that comment stings. Fontainebleau didn't collapse because it lacked elegance. It collapsed because it forgot why Vegas existed. For decades, this city thrived on small dreams: $20 bets, affordable buffets, stories of luck turning into legend. It was a playground for the hopeful. Fontainebleau tried to replace that dream with a sterile fantasy of perfection, a 5-star shell built on the belief that money could buy magic. But Vegas was never about perfection. It was about possibility. When that possibility disappears, the lights might still shine, yet no one feels the need to look up. Fontainebleau stands today as a paradox: too rich to fail, too empty to survive. The $3.7 billion tower rising from the desert has become a monument not to victory, but to warning, a signal that greed can build monuments higher than faith can sustain. When it opened in December 2023, headlines called it the rebirth of Vegas. Less than 2 years later, its leadership team was gone. Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Technology Officer, even department heads. Regulators began asking questions about internal credit practices and compliance gaps. What was once advertised as the new heartbeat of the Strip turned into an emblem of corporate confusion and fading trust. Fontainebleau is no longer a symbol of rebirth. It is a reflection of what Vegas, and maybe America, has become. Dazzling on the outside, exhausted on the inside. Ambition without soul, brilliance without belief. The tower still glows blue against the desert sky, but that light no longer invites gamblers or dreamers. It simply reminds everyone driving past that even billion-dollar dreams can die from silence. The dream that never learned to walk. Fontainebleau was supposed to be the rebirth of Las Vegas. When construction began in 2007, it was billed as the most ambitious resort the Strip had ever seen. 67 stories of glass, 3,700 rooms, a casino larger than 2 football fields, and every luxury imaginable. But that dream never truly started. When the 2008 financial crash hit, the $2 billion structure was left half-finished, an empty tower baking under the desert sun. Locals called it the Blue Ghost. For over a decade, it stood there, dark and abandoned, a reminder that Vegas can build fast but collapse even faster. Investors came and went. Each promised to finish it, but no one could tame the numbers. By the time work finally restarted, costs had exploded. What was once a $2 billion plan ballooned into a $3.7 billion gamble. But the world had changed. Tourists weren't chasing luxury anymore. They were chasing value. Vegas wasn't the same city that had once worshipped excess. Yet Fontainebleau was built for that vanished era. Cold marble, designer shops, and prices no ordinary visitor could afford. 18 years after the first blueprint, the so-called palace in the sky finally opened. But beneath the shining glass was exhaustion. Too expensive to quit, too proud to change, and too late to matter. Fontainebleau wasn't a new beginning. It was the last chapter of an old dream Vegas had already left behind. The Crystal Palace that burned money. When Fontainebleau finally opened its doors, it wasn't greeted with crowds, but with confusion. Guests walked through a billion-dollar lobby that felt half asleep. The pool wasn't finished, several restaurants were still closed. Yet the prices stayed sky-high. Luxury without life. Behind the glass walls, the numbers told a harsher truth. Fontainebleau was losing nearly $400,000 every single day. Power bills, maintenance, payroll, marketing, all burning cash faster than the casino could earn it. A place built to print money had turned into a furnace that ate it. The management believed that excess could buy attention. They spent millions on branding, high-end interiors, and influencer events that brought cameras but not real players. Even the smallest details went viral for the wrong reasons. A $24 plate of nachos with only 6 chips became a symbol of everything wrong with the resort. The deeper issue was location and identity. Fontainebleau sat at the far north end of the Strip, away from the foot traffic that fuels Vegas life. To get there, visitors had to cross miles of cheaper, livelier options. Most didn't bother. Without a steady flow of guests, every part of the resort started to choke. Restaurants stayed empty, dealers waited at silent tables, and the luxury stores turned into display rooms no one entered. Instead of cutting losses, the owners doubled down. They spent another $112 million to buy land next door, betting on expansion while the main property was already bleeding out. Investors couldn't believe it. Comment sections filled with disbelief. One review summed it up perfectly. A casino built for billionaires in a city built by dreamers. Fontainebleau's model had one fatal flaw. It tried to be elite in a city that thrives on inclusion. Vegas was never about perfection. It was about participation. The moment you make people feel like outsiders, the magic disappears. And when the middle class stopped coming, the entire ecosystem broke down. By its first anniversary, Fontainebleau wasn't the talk of the town. It was a warning. A $3.7 billion masterpiece running on empty. Vegas had seen casinos close before, but never one this grand, this costly, and this symbolic of how far the city had drifted from its soul. The city that forgot its soul. Fontainebleau's collapse wasn't just a business failure. It was a reflection of what Las Vegas had become. The city that once sold hope was now selling exclusivity. The dream used to be simple. Anyone could come to Vegas, bet a little, and feel alive. Now, even walking through the door costs more than some people's entire vacation budgets. Old Vegas was built by waitresses, cab drivers, and blue-collar dreamers chasing luck. New Vegas is built for a class that doesn't gamble, it invests. And that shift has drained the heartbeat out of the Strip. Fontainebleau didn't die because it was unlucky. It died because it forgot who its audience was. When a resort only speaks to the elite, it loses the noise, the laughter, the chaos that made Vegas feel alive. Inside Fontainebleau, the sound of silence replaced the ringing of slot machines. Empty tables reflected the truth. Luxury without warmth isn't luxury at all. The soul of Vegas has always been its people, the small bettors, the weekend travelers, the stories of what if. Fontainebleau was built above them, not for them. For decades, this city thrived on the promise that anyone could win, even for one night. But when that promise fades, Vegas stops being Vegas. What's left is a showroom of polished floors, where money circulates but memories don't. Fontainebleau became a symbol of that shift, a glittering skyscraper that forgot to make anyone care. In trying to become a paradise for the few, it became a museum for the many, a place to look at, not to belong to. And that's the real tragedy. Vegas didn't lose its light. It lost the reason to shine. the copy of a dream. In a city built on imagination, Fontainebleau dared to be ordinary. Every corner looked expensive, but nothing felt original. The lobby design echoed Wynn, the lighting copied Resorts World, and the architecture was a glass replica of Miami's Fontainebleau. A different city, a different soul. In a place famous for risk-taking, it played safe, and that was its biggest mistake. Vegas has always rewarded boldness, the kind of madness that turns a desert into a fantasy. But Fontainebleau didn't bring anything new to the table. No landmark attraction, no unique story, not even a memorable show. It was beautiful but empty, like a model without a voice. And in a city where every resort competes for identity, invisibility is death. Even the symbol chosen for the lobby, a vintage car hung upside down from the ceiling, confused visitors. Was it art, irony, or just another expensive distraction? The answer didn't matter. People walked by, took a photo, and left. Fontainebleau became the backdrop, not the experience. Then came the viral moment that finished what poor management had started, the $24 nachos. 6 chips and a spoon of cheese turned into a global meme. Overnight, the billion-dollar resort became an internet joke. It was the perfect metaphor, luxury priced too high for what it actually offered. Vegas has never been about perfection. It's about energy, unpredictability, stories that start with bad ideas and end in luck. Fontainebleau had no story, no spontaneity, no edge. It was a copy of a dream that had already been lived, and copied dreams don't sell in Vegas. In a city built by illusionists, Fontainebleau committed the one sin that can't be forgiven. It failed to entertain. The crack in the glass. Not long after the grand opening, the shine began to fade from the inside out. Fontainebleau looked flawless under the desert sun, but behind those polished blue walls, the structure was cracking. In less than a year, almost the entire executive core walked away. The chief financial officer, the chief operating officer, the chief technology officer, even the head of food and beverage, all gone. On paper, they left for personal reasons. In reality, they were abandoning a ship that was already sinking. Then came the headlines. Nevada's Gaming Control Board started probing Fontainebleau over the way it extended credit to certain players. Questions were raised about internal controls and compliance with federal anti-money laundering laws. No official ruling yet, but the damage was instant. For a brand desperate to earn public trust, even suspicion was enough to break it. Partnerships soured. Wynn Resorts accused Fontainebleau of poaching senior staff, sparking a legal fight that turned 2 of the Strip's biggest names into open enemies. Other companies stepped back quietly. In a city where every handshake is worth millions, reputation is everything, and Fontainebleau's was unraveling fast. Guests noticed it too. Reviews mentioned confusion, hidden fees, promises that didn't match the price tag. "Everything looks beautiful," one traveler wrote, "but it feels empty." That line captured the mood perfectly. Elegance with no warmth, grandeur with no trust. By the end of its first year, Fontainebleau was more than a financial crisis. It was a crisis of credibility. The lights were still bright, but behind them was a management system held together by uncertainty and fear. You can rebuild walls with money, but once trust is gone, no amount of glass can hide the cracks. The light that refused to die. Even as Fontainebleau sank under the weight of its mistakes, a faint pulse remained. Inside that towering glass monument, small pockets of life began to flicker again. The Blue Live Theater started hosting concerts with international artists. The nightclub drew younger crowds seeking escape, not elegance. And some of the restaurants, the few that stayed open, began filling seats on weekends thanks to steep discounts, flash sales, and free parking. The resort quietly shifted its focus. Instead of chasing billionaires, it began opening its doors to locals, the very people Vegas had forgotten. Workers, families, and small dreamers who built this city from dust. Fontainebleau staff joined the local hotel union, securing better wages and benefits. For once, the change wasn't about expansion, it was about respect. A server summed it up best. We can't control room prices, but we can make every guest feel valued. That line carried more truth than any marketing campaign. It reminded everyone that Vegas was never built by marble floors or gold chandeliers. It was built by the belief that anyone could belong. The dealers, the waiters, the performers, they were the soul the city had lost. Fontainebleau is still far from saved, but its struggle mirrors something larger. Across America, cities that once thrived on hope now run on survival. They shine brighter than ever, yet feel emptier inside. The story of Fontainebleau isn't just about a failed casino. It's about a country learning that progress without people isn't progress at all. Each night, the tower's blue light still cuts through the desert sky. It no longer invites gamblers or tourists. It stands as a quiet signal, not of victory, but of endurance. The light says, Vegas is still here. Not perfect, not invincible, but alive. And maybe that's enough. Because if Vegas can find its soul again, so can America.